Joining us right now is the U.S. Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. Secretary, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate the time. In a new interview with CNN, the EU Commission president was asked about the president's message there about the climate change being a con job, in his words, and she responded to it. Let me play this for you. Listen to this.
So you don't agree that the renewables are a gigantic con job?
We will stay the course with the renewables because, as we think, it is good for the climate. It is bringing good jobs at home in Europe. It is cheaper than the fossil fuels for us in Europe because we do not have to import them. And it gives us independence and energy security.
Secretary, do you think Europe is wrong?
Look, the greatest action that came from this increasingly strident calls for action on climate change, about $5 trillion has been spent over the last 20 years, mostly on wind, solar, batteries, transmission to enable that. It's 2.6% of global energy today. The main impacts of the pursuit towards net zero have been more expensive energy for all the early movers that have spent money on these forms of energy, deindustrialization, which means industries leaving Germany, leaving the United Kingdom, leaving Belgium, going to Asia, producing things out of coal instead of natural gas, loading them on diesel-powered ships and bringing them back. Like, that's not a serious climate policy. And the worst part has been reduced progress in energy access. 2 billion people cook their daily meals today burning wood and dung inside their houses. 2 million needless deaths from that. But yet the climate change movement stridently stands against getting clean cooking fuels and hydrocarbon access to the rest of the world. That's a scam.
The thing when it comes to renewables is if you're looking at investing, it's expensive on the front end and then it's a lot cheaper than fossil fuels on the back end. And the fact is, if you're just focusing on the American consumer and the cost and the cost of energy for them, the world does believe, and you can see it in the numbers, wind and solar, they are the cheapest forms of energy on Earth. I mean, Lazard just put out a report that says renewables remain the most cost-competitive form of generating and distributing energy. And even just anecdotally, oil-producing giant Saudi Arabia is investing big in solar, which sends a message. So how is it a con or a scam?
So the Lazard report, of course, is crazy because they use a thing called levelized cost of energy, as if they're delivering the same thing. A natural gas power plant drives energy 24/7. Wind and solar, it's when the wind blows and when the sun shines. There's no customer for that energy. Do you want your kid in an incubator, and if the sun goes behind a cloud, the incubator?
You've got to have backup. Yes, you have to have backup.
That's right.
Sure, but the whole concept of renewable energies as a scam.
When you include the backup cost, it's a huge driver of increased cost. California and Florida had similar cost electricity 20 years ago. California went down this renewable energy road. Florida built more natural gas. Today, California's electricity prices are twice as high as Florida's, and Florida produces more electricity than California. But you make energy expensive, people consume less of it, and your industries will leave, and your voters will be angry.
The president also said that European electricity bills are 4 or 5 times more expensive than those in China and higher than those in the United States. Regardless of that comparison, electricity prices are on the rise in the U.S., in part due to the push in the needs of AI. End of July, electricity prices surged to 5.5%. That's over twice the pace of overall inflation. What do you say to the American consumer? The direction is not the right direction.
I agree entirely, because everything that's coming on the grid today was permitted during the Biden administration. They permitted wind, solar, and batteries.
But again, then when you look at how is the idea of drill, baby, drill, I don't understand as being the actual answer. Because if that's what you've got, you also have the oil and gas companies telling the Dallas Fed recently, they told the Dallas Fed this year Trump's push to lower fuel prices, which lessens the economic incentive for producers to drill, was incompatible with his stated desire to increase production. The president's decision to impose tariffs on foreign products has driven up drilling costs at a time when producers are struggling in an oversupplied market. Drill, baby, drill does not sound like a good investment under the conditions that have been set.
Yeah, President Trump's focus is consumers. He wants low oil prices, gas prices, heating prices, electricity prices. He wants all of those.
Doesn't sound like you can have both in this scenario.
We have both today. We have both today. His special interest is not the oil and gas companies. Biden was fantastic for the oil and gas companies. He made it harder to produce oil and gas. He didn't reduce our dependence on oil and gas. He just made the prices higher. Who won from that?
Again, but if drill, baby, drill, I'm using just the moniker, is the answer, and it's not moving towards renewables, these two things don't happen at the same time. You've got electricity going up. It's becoming more expensive for people in the United States. And you have oil and gas producers saying, and we're not going to produce more.
We're record high oil production, record high natural gas production. Anyone in the business wants higher prices. But look, what we're going to do is we're going to stop closing coal plants, and we're going to build new natural gas plants. We're going to build electricity that works 24/7, stop the Biden price rises, and eventually bring the price of electricity down.
This is something that I've been really confused about, and I would like to get your take on. The president has made very clear that Europe needs to cut ties, energy ties with Russia, in order to end the war and force Russia to a negotiating table to end that war. Why is the United States still buying enriched uranium from Russia today?
Oh, the whole world is, because unfortunately...
But why is the United States?
Because we need it. We don't have an ability to enrich enough uranium for our reactors. We are building it right now. My department's part of that effort.
What are the plans to cut those ties with Russia? Is it the same timeline as you're expecting Europe to? Why does the president think Europe needs to act to cut their ties when I have not heard anyone talking about the move to cut U.S. ties in buying uranium?
Because Europe, Japan, the United States, everyone buys Russian enriched uranium. You're absolutely right. We want to get off of it. That's about $700 million versus $20 billion of the oil and gas going here.
It's more already this year than was bought last year.
Yes, because we're stopped closing nuclear power plants. You're right. We want to get off that dependence. We are all in my department we need to get more uranium enrichment done in the United States. We'll be announcing awards on that in the next few weeks.
So I've heard that actually suggested to me that is dig it up in the United States. The biggest issue with uranium is the refining process. And with that suggestion of digging it up, even if you dig it up, how are you going to refine it?
We need to build, and we are today building, new enrichment capacity in the United States.
Wasn't the last one built 20 years ago?
It was.
Yeah, how fast are you going to build that?
It'll take 2 or 3 years.
In time to end a war?
What?
In time to end a war?
No, unfortunately, it won't be in time to end the war. Fortunately, there's much more money going into oil and natural gas to Russia than there is to uranium. I wish we could get rid of the uranium problem tomorrow. Fortunately, it's a much smaller funder of the war than oil and gas. But we want to get rid of all of them as fast as possible.
Leading by example is definitely one thing. Secretary, I've got like 75 more questions. Let's continue this conversation another time.
Thanks,
really
Kate.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.
Take care. Thanks for having me.